To all who come, welcome. Disney is a time machine that takes us back, connects us together, and shows us that not even wishing upon a star ever gets old. Now come sit with your friends Jonelle, Sean, and Megan as we deep dive into the heart of Disney.
What the hell?
Hello, friends.
Sorry, but you're the only one here with the dad.
Welcome to Friends of Disney, where today we went off to a dark start.
Daddy issues.
Not those kind.
So right before we hit record, we were like, oh, who's going to start? And Jonelle's like, the only one with a dad.
Then they stare at me. Go figure.
Sorry, mine's dead.
We don't talk to mine.
Don't know. God damn it. Give me 5 minutes without getting dark.
No, because my life's a horror show.
You're not wrong. But give us 5 minutes to at least talk about the cute twins.
They're not that cute.
They're not that cute.
Cole and what's his brother's
They're
name?
children. Children are not...
Welcome back to Friends of Disney.
Can we restart this episode, please?
No.
Why?
Because this is great content.
Oh.
Well, better way to start than us arguing over Jonelle setting us straight to a dark spot.
Hey.
We're on another Zack and Cody episode where Dad's back unless you're Jonelle.
And then you might be in heaven.
We need to move past this. This is bad.
I'm back. Hi. I know I was in the last episode. I'm sorry. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So obviously in this episode we finally get to meet Zack and Cody's dad. Okay.
I just better keep my mouth shut.
Actually, I do remember I didn't watch Zack and Cody growing up due to reasons that I'm not going to get into here. Just saying. Not going into my dark tragic past, thank you very much. But I do vaguely remember like Zack and Cody's dad, and I remember like experiencing him being like a man child and me going, yeah, this dude is ugly and I don't like him, and walking out of the room.
See, I remember Zack and Cody's dad, obviously. But I watched more Sweet Life on Deck than anything. Purely because I like the age of Zack and Cody in that during that series more. And so when I see when their dad comes on to that series, he's a lot more mature than he is in this episode by far. So it's really weird for me seeing him in this episode being as he is, yeah.
I wasn't sure where I was going to go, but honestly, it's probably a good thing I didn't go there.
Listen. I don't know TikTok girlies. I feel like you hear this a lot. Like, don't settle for men like this guy, because otherwise he will just be a child.
Here's the thing.
Let's go on B plot.
Well, yeah, the B plot's easy to talk about. It's honestly just there for comedic relief. 100% comedic relief, because it's like London and trying to teach Maddie, ironically, about like gym stuff. Funny enough. But it also like makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like you think about how rich London is, and like I remember seeing like an episode of Sweet Life on Deck where London literally carries around gold bars without problem.
Sorry, Soda Pop's playing in the background, and I just pop a little soda pop. Have you watched K-pop Demon Hunters?
No.
Okay, that's an episode for another day. Anyway,
Friends of Not Disney coming back. Friends of Not Disney covering K-pop Demon Hunters.
We still
Let
need
us
to
know.
Be there.
do How to Train Your Dragon.
I will be there, and I will be so happy.
let us know what you want for our next Friends of Not Disney episode.
If we do that, can we do Death Note?
That's a series.
Exactly. It's a good series.
Another conversation for another day.
Guys, I'm not well, apparently.
K-pop Demon Hunters.
Anyways, back to Zack and Cody. Did you ever struggle in gym?
I
know we talked about this briefly with the Cadet Kelly episode.
In elementary, yes, I did. Elementary, every time I went to gym, I was often getting punched in the face by kids in my class, so I always had to go to the uh,
Nurse?
in the principal's office to handle my bloody nose.
Fun.
Honestly, I relate to you because there was this one kid in kickball every year who would kick the kickball directly into my face by accident every year. And I know this because this kid would cry every time. He'd be like, I was not aiming at you. And every single year I'd walk down all the way to the nurse's office being like, hi. And he would be walking with me being like, it happened again.
Okay, now the real flex of school PE.
Dodgeball.
Yes. What lineup were you picked out of in dodgeball? Like, were you either one of the first people, the middle people, or the very last?
I was the underdog. I was never picked first, but at the same time, I would like surprise everyone. Like, I even receive it now. Like, you look at me, like, I am a very skinny, limp person. I don't appear that strong or that athletic at all. But I am ridiculously strong and very athletic in actuality. And so I'm oftentimes underestimated.
You are London. You are the man equivalent of London.
I don't know how I feel about that, about being Mandan, but...
I mean, I relate to that, though. So I was the person who was always picked last. Nobody wanted me on their team. What a sad life I have. We know, guys. This is a common theme.
Is this just your internet presence? The depressing friend with the tragic life?
What would that make the two of us?
The comic relief.
You know what's worse? Is the fact that we all have very depressing lives.
Technically, yes.
I just somehow have a series of depressing acts.
Everyone copes differently.
And mine is through laughter now at this point because it's the only thing
Back
left.
to dodgeball, I guess.
Yes, dodgeball. So I would always get picked last, and I was the underdog because straight up, I would get all of them out, and every single game, I would still get picked last.
What's your experience with dodgeball in elementary PE?
I would always get picked middle. Here's the thing. I did not have a good arm, but I was really good at catching. So we had a rule. If you threw a ball and you caught it before it hit you, then the other person would be out.
Yes.
So I would do that. But I was also really good at collecting balls and handing them to... So
you were the hoarder.
I was the hoarder. I would go collect all the balls and then like strategically be like, okay, I know that oh my gosh, now all the kids' names are like Jacobson. I'd hand them to Jacobson and be like, there you go. Hand them to other people who I'm like, I know, like you.
I got the stash.
I got the stash, my guy.
Do you need some?
Ultimate support team player.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like, you're the strong one. Here.
Yeah,
for me.
I would be like, okay, here you go, and hand them out to like all the players who like. I was like, oh, I knew you would get this guy out. So I was like, here you go.
See,
yeah.
I was kind of that person. I was just like the suave type one because I'd be standing and be like, got the foam ball. Here you go, dude.
See, I was 100% the one that they would underestimate because like I remember during one, it wasn't dodgeball because as we went through elementary school, dodgeball became more and more outlawed in schools because of bloody noses.
And dodgeball was not outlawed in Cooley.
The recess teachers ended up outlawing it in my elementary school, so we ended up switching to kickball. And it was so bad that with how they would pick teams, that they wouldn't even pick to the last player being picked. A team would pick their players and then just say, "Oh, you get the rest. You get the rest."
Also, this was okay. This kind of brings it on with the harsh dodge. Finish it, but I don't want to lose this thought.
But I would be that person that'd be able, someone would try to steal a base, and I'd get them out. I'd be the one that able to catch the ball. Flyers up, I was able to catch it, and I had an arm to throw it, and people would be so caught off guard by it. because I don't appear physically adept at all. So much so that when I was in 8th grade, me and my best friend Nathan at the time, we actually thought that we would try to persuade, as a joke, the football coach to just only have make sure that we were always on the field together if we were to play football, because I was so fast and had such a strong arm. He would just go, and then I would just throw it to him, and we'd be fine.
I was going to ask the question of, did you play dodgeball with any other items that were not actually dodgeballs, and what were they?
Marshmallows.
Jump ropes, footballs, basketballs, and baseballs.
No, we did marshmallow dodgeball at like my youth group. So like if you caught it in your mouth, like your team automatically won.
My daycare was horrible then.
My youth group? So I was like a teenager?
This was legit my daycare from elementary.
Yikes.
Of kindergarten through 4th grade.
Yep, nope. I played marshmallow dodgeball when I was much older.
That sounds fun.
I don't think I ever played with something that wasn't dodgeballs. However, I do remember going to a youth group overnighter where we were watching The Lord of the Rings.
Why always the Lord of the Rings at Old Nighters?
We also had another one with the entire Star Wars series at the time, and it was funny because some people decided to dress up as Lord of the Rings people. So I remember
I'd want to be an elf.
If I recall correctly, and if any of my friends watch this, they'll probably call me out if I was right or we're not. I remember seeing a dude dressed up as Gandalf taking his little wooden staff, his little wizard staff, and yeeting a freaking dodgeball at people.
You shall not pass! Bah! Wait, that is Gandalf.
You look
right?
like you have legitimate tears coming out of your eyes now.
Oh, I do.
It's part of the heat too.
Oh,
it's getting really hot in here.
Sorry, I also wanted it to be easy for us to hear.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's hot here on the
Guys,
west side, guys.
We're not taking off our clothes because we are not Nelly or 50 Cent, but it is hot in here. Let me tell you now, it is hot in here. And if you are still here now, so please help us through this heat stroke by liking, following, and subscribing.
What a plug! What a call to action!
As you can tell, we don't script these.
Obviously not. I'm the oddball here with a very dark sense of humor.
If it wasn't for you, I was gonna make a really funny joke, playing with your Nelly comment. It's getting hot in here, so let's keep on our clothes.
I am getting so hot, I have to keep my clothes on.
Hey, I don't know why you're hiding. It was completely okay. We did not say anything bad. We said
cringe.
We're gonna keep our clothes on.
You guys are so cringe.
To keep our clothes on.
Exactly.
Guys, we're not a kid-friendly podcast, but let me tell you, we are not an R-rated podcast. We are PG-13.
Oh my god.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Viewer sanity is also
I was
advised.
going to go into the legal jargon next.
No. Back to Zack and Cody, please.
Okay. I guess we should go back to the main plot here of the daddy issues.
Can I add one thing about dodgeball before we get back? Okay. So, I had a friend who had a traumatic experience with dodgeball. And so instead of playing dodgeball, me and this friend would walk around the hallways with teacher permission, and we would just do laps. And one of the guys came up to me one day and was like, "Why do you do laps?" And I was like, "Because I'd rather not stare at your ugly mug." I remember that day. I was having a bad day, and I was like, "Because I don't want to look at your ugly mug." And then
Get wrecked, little dude. Get wrecked.
he was 6'2". And then I started crying. I was like, "I'm so sorry." And he was like, "Whiplash, okay," and walked away. So I'm so sorry.
Whiplash.
I'm sorry to that guy.
Don't be sorry. You probably couldn't even see his mug.
You're right. My glasses were not up to date. So he might have been the most handsome guy in school, and I wouldn't have known.
I'm glad you're thinking that it was a glasses joke.
Also, I was going to go on a happier talk on the main plot of this episode.
Sure.
So I'm going to just continue on while y'all's are having a side conversation here. But so on the main plot, obviously, Zack is with his dad, and during this time, he's like, "Oh, living with dad is great. You know, I can do whatever I want." And then eventually, he's like, "I miss mom."
Prefacing that though, Zach's really angry with his mom because his mom's one makes it seem like she has an out for Zach and has to be the responsible parent to keep things on track because she also has no support from Zack and Cody's dad.
What's his name?
Kurt.
Kurt. Okay.
I just wanted to say that, like, this is kind of like similar to. So even though I did not have a father in my life, I did go to my grandmother's every summer. Okay.
You're the only one that's really had an experience with like
that split parenting.
Split parenting.
Yeah, and so that's what I was going to talk about was kind of that split parenting lifestyle. Obviously, my father wasn't in my life, so my grandmother kind of filled that place. And I could definitely sense bitterness from my mother because with my grandmother, I was able to go golfing. I went to throwers camps. I went to volleyball camps. I went to vacation Bible school. I did a lot more things than I would have with my mom. And a lot of this was due to financial strain. But, you know, as a kid, I didn't really think of it much as that. My grandmother's, to me, was honestly more of a safe space. It was a place where I felt like I could be free of expression. And my grandmother's still pretty strict, so it's not like I wasn't without a parent. Like in the preface of this episode, where the dad is not ready to take care of a child in his situation. Like my grandmother was prepared to have a child over at the house. And I did live in the basement of the house. Like it was a whole apartment. So like I had essentially my own apartment to myself when I was there.
I don't know where to go off of that.
I guess I can speak to it as like a teacher because I definitely, as someone who taught kids for a long time, can definitely tell like who comes from a household who doesn't have rules and who comes from a class like a family situation that has a lot of rules and which ones fall in the middle. And the kids who don't have rules struggle really hard because one of my co-teachers had a brilliant explanation, right? Imagine you're going on an airplane. And usually in an airplane, there's a flight attendant that basically just like outlines like all the safety procedures and all the things you should expect by being on an airplane. But like, imagine you don't listen to those safety instructions. The flight is going to be hell, especially when you're up in the middle of the air. Now imagine, because like the adults in this like scenario are like the pilot and the flight like attendants, and imagine them going, "Oh, you can do whatever you want on the airplane. You can smoke, you can like open the doors, you can do whatever." The plane would go down. There would be no food, like everything would like go to chaos. It is the job of the flight attendant and the job of the pilots to be like, no, these are the rules. And even though, like, it sucks that you can't get in the middle of turbulence, or it sucks that you can't have more than like the one pack of pretzels. It's there for a reason, and it's so that you can get to point A to point B without the airplane crashing. And that's our job as teachers or as parents, is to make sure that like they get to point A to point B. And I feel like I have definitely had kids be like, "Why are you going after me?" And I'm like, it's not that I'm going after you. It's that some kids just inherently understand, like, I have scissors, I'm not going to cut my clothes with it. Some kids need reminders, like, hey, we're not going to cut our friend's clothes or our friend's hair. And I feel like if Zach was in my classroom, it would be more of a conversation of like, why do you want to push against these rules?
So,
yeah,
it's interesting to me hearing you talk about like a kid who has it, like who feels like they have it out for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because like what that looks like varies so much from family to family. Like, in my family, I definitely probably I recall a lot of times where I felt that way,
Same.
and the excuse I was always given was because I was the oldest. The
Mhm.
oldest has to have all this responsibility, so the oldest gets treated the harshest. And like in Zack and Cody's case, like parents aren't on the same page at all, and it's being pushed onto the mother. Which, side tangent, really quick, I love how this episode, in a backwards way, highlighted Carrie in such an important way that we have yet to have really see in the show. Like, we see Carrie have heart to heart moments with the boys, but in this, like, it really highlights her struggles as a single parent, what she has to do, and clear that she does, as at this moment, doesn't have the support from Kurt.
And that's the other part that I was going to go into, was my mom being a single mom. Um, because like it's not easy for someone to be a single parent. I happen to have a mother who was obese, and she kind of, as I like deep dive into it more, realizing my mom relied a lot on my body to help her get around and like help keep her in health, because she was not in as good physical health. Um, which is kind of sad that, you know, a child has to take on that responsibility.
They
But
shouldn't have to. Like, it shouldn't be on the child to take care of the parent in that situation.
yeah, and I think that's where a lot of this bitterness and jealousness from my mother came. But, you know, she still worked her hardest to like make sure that every night, because I had a major learning disability for reading, and my mom made sure to like that I was actually reading every night and was getting stuff done, because I was still a grade lower, and so she helped me try and get caught up with my class. And by second grade I was caught up. And so it's not like she didn't put in the effort to be a parent. It's just that there was a lot of different priorities between housing needs, financial needs, food. Like taking care of the actual child sometimes becomes less of a need to the child's like necessities, because the physical or external things are more important. And I always went to grandma's just because, you know, it's a break from that. And I had opportunities.
I remember a scene in How I Met Your Mother, and Megan will know exactly what I'm talking about, but there's a scene in the last season where Marshall is driving across, like driving through states to get to um, Barney's wedding, and they there's a person he's traveling with, and she's talking about how she wants to go see her daughter at this Model UN thing, and she ends up like they end up saying about how like kids don't remember what their parents do for them; they only remember who shows up, which is like I feel like look like we could probably all like hearing that think about moments like that while we were growing up, where it's like that thought process like who shows up, and we don't think about like the behind the scenes of like what our parents did for us. And me and Megan especially, like as new parents, it's a heavy thought process because like to be fully transparent, like we had talked a lot about how we want to raise Casper Jr. And one big thing was that we did not want to have a lot of reliance on television. Is just an example. But because of like I'm trying to go to school to advance my career so I can better provide for my family, and Megan's working full time during the week, and so I'm doing schoolwork while taking care of the baby, and sometimes we've had to just we need to use the TV, and like I hate doing it, but at the same time, and I want to lay on the floor play with my kid, but it's at the same time I'm like I have stuff I need to do to better take care of my family.
Yeah, so that way in the future we can be like there. I'm going to talk about it from like a kid's point of view. So my siblings have birthdays back to back, 4 days apart. And so my birthday is like in the summer. And my dad would be there every year. He's a traveling salesperson. You need to like understand that. So, but every year for my siblings' birthdays, which let me remind you, are 4 days apart, my dad would be like, sorry, I'm going to be out of town. And I remember one of my siblings telling me, like, it's 4 days that my father could have requested off. Like, because as adults who have jobs, we can be like, hey, I can't be like there next Wednesday for XYZ reason. We can request that off months in advance. And like, that's totally okay. And like, that's valid. We don't even have to give a reason. Sometimes it's helpful. Like, hey, like when I gave birth, hey, I'm not going to be back for 4 months because I gave birth to a literal human. Or like the week where Sean got some of his teeth removed, he was like, hey, I'm not going to be in work. But sometimes it's like, hey, I can't, I won't be there because vacation or like because I'm using sick time. And so I remember my sister and my brother getting like very angry with my dad over years, being like, you didn't love us enough to be there for those.
I will say that's where all my bitterness is to my father. Like, he never bothered to be there any point in my life. My family gave him multiple opportunities before I was born to be there for my birth, and he still said no. After my birth, he was still given multiple opportunities by my family to come see me. He still said no. And so it's like, it's so frustrating because like, not only was my mom not always there at the house because she had to take care of other needs, but like, I never had a father who was there. So then it was like, who the hell is actually taking care of you? Well, I was in school all the time. I was in school or I was in daycare. So no one was taking care of me. I was taking care of myself. And granted, during part of that time, my mom actually did work at the daycare that I did go to, but I still wasn't with my mom.
Yeah. When I look at Kurt, Zack and Cody's dad, as my bear with me for a second with where I'm going with this. Also, the cat is so cute. Oh my god.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, this is our cat Nova.
We got a cat.
You can't really see him because his back is to the camera, but he likes to come sit and cuddle around this time of night.
Especially if there's a blanket.
Yeah, because it's also food time. So he's like, if I love you enough, you will give me food. So
My
he'll
cat
probably
just
be here
screams.
for the rest of the episode.
He'll scream if we get up.
Yes.
But when I look at Kurt, Zack and Cody's dad, I have a lot of mixed feelings about him because on one hand, I see him not supporting Carrie that much as a parent. But at the same time, I somehow understand him. Like, prior to this episode, in the episode, they disclosed that prior to this, it's been 6 months since they saw him. And you can tell that he wants his boys to love him and to see him in a positive light, to not see him as the parent who's not around or anything like that. And I think a nice way to compare, it's not 100%, but like it reminds me of like situations when like you have a parent who passes when the kid's like at a very young age, and you see that they have like a checkered past and stuff, and the mom is left with like, I want the kids to remember him for the good he has, for the good for what he was, not what for the checkered, like the bad stuff that he did, and like keep the memory positive. And I see their dad doing that, which I commend him. Like, I don't blame him for it. Like when you see him with Zack on the tour bus, and he all of a sudden can't keep up with that same persona, and those bad things are coming out, like how he's not a good parent, and he doesn't want his boys to see him in that light. And I honestly feel so bad for him because he sees how he's a bad parent. But he's not in a place to really reprimand that, or he acknowledges he's just not that type of person to be that good of a parent, but he still loves his boys more than anything and wants them to view him in that way.
I don't know. He makes me angry.
Again, this is why I said bear with me, because like I see how he's not supporting Carrie. But some people aren't meant to be good parents, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they, like we see in Kurt's case, like he loves his boys. He does love Zack and Cody. But he acknowledges that he's not a good parent. Like he's like, I didn't think your mom was gonna say yes. I didn't want you to have to deal with the tour bus life and stuff.
And the last part, I'm gonna kind of go on this, and I guess maybe wrap it up. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
But obviously, I am religious. I'm gonna go on a side part with scripture on this, but with the Ten Commandments, it's, love your father and your mother. And I remember going to a college event where a student had started to speak out on this because her father also didn't want to be in her life. And, so she was left as a single mom, like as a single kid with her mom, and that was it. And she really struggled this whole time with like the same feelings of me of like, why didn't my father love me enough to come see me? And and you have to, when you're an adult, you then have to kind of put that away and realize like he gave me life. That is the most important thing, is that he gave me life. And he decided to not be a parent in my life because he is not a good parent.
Speaking from like an adopted kid point of view, I was told constantly growing up, like, your mom loved you so much that she gave you up to have a better life. And on like the other side, so it was like my birth parents, the one who gave birth to me, loved me so much that like they gave me up to have a better life. And then my adopted parents, the people who raised me, loved me so much that they handpicked me out of like this like group of children to be theirs. And as like a child, like a very young kid, I was like, yeah, that was great. But like as an adult with my own kid, right, I've like taken some of the things I've been told as a child with like different eyes. And I'm like, okay, but like, if my birth mother really loved me that much to like give me up, which is something I couldn't even imagine doing, like, why didn't she change? If like, is that really an act of love to give like up someone? Is it an act of love to like what is an act of love and what is an act of like sacrifice?
I would say that's more of an act of sacrifice. An act of love would, and from my understanding of your situation of your mother, I would say for someone like that, it would be, a whole life-changing event for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have to be from the start of day one.
Mm-hmm.
Something that me and Megan have had extensive conversations about regarding like parental relationships with kids and so on. And part of this comes from us watching a lot of cinema therapy. We love you, cinema therapy.
Not sponsored, but
not
listen.
sponsored, but they're such a good show. Check them out.
As if they need us to call them out.
Honestly. But they're like, they talk a lot about like how everyone has the capacity to change. It's whether or not they are ready to accept that. And like me and Megan often talk about that like life-changing situation and stuff. We refer to it as the Mr. Banks moment because of how Mr. Banks changes overnight in Mary Poppins and stuff. But I don't know. It's just,
You see,
it's hard
Yeah.
when you have like animosity between parents, and especially if it's like when you're questioning about like how they take care of you and if how they're there in your life and stuff like that. It's hard to look at that and be like, if everyone has the capacity to change, then what would have done it?
You see, and this is like another continuing frustrating topic on this is just like because I was stuck with a single mother. Um, there's been a lot of times throughout our relationship where she has straight up called me crying that she is a horrible mother. And there's been times where I've been called a horrible daughter, that I was undeserving of being in this world. And I hate that it goes that dark, but it's hard when you're a kid and you listen to that because you live with this parent. This is your only parent, and you know that's your only parent. So you look up to this person because they are the only person who's going to take care of you at the end of the night, and you have to listen to them no matter what. So there's certain circumstances too where I don't feel like the single parent should even be the parent. Now, I don't think that's necessarily true in my situation. For my sister, maybe, but not for me. I think I was, if I could have gone back and changed that, I think, if I had a say of adult now, me and how I wanted to be raised, I would have asked my mom to raise me with my grandmother and built a relationship with her mother and put aside her, because my mom was really upset with her mom, because, there's a lot of family things that went on, but she needed help. She really needed to talk with someone, and all of that got put on me, which isn't fair as the child. And in Zack and Cody's case, they're very fortunate. They have a very loving mom and the support of everyone around them. But outside of Disney, that's not the reality for some of these families.
Well, and if you really look at their situation, they're in a very fragile situation because, yeah, they live at the Tipton under Carrie's contract to perform at the Tipton.
Yeah, which relies on her having a job.
And so, you lose that job and
you lose your home.
Exactly. So they're like, we're so used to just seeing them in the hotel and like, oh yeah, they're in the hotel, it's the show. But they are in a very, very fragile situation, and it's in a very ideal situation. Like, it's like all the pieces lined up perfectly. Carrie has her job, they have a place to stay.
And despite all things, Mr. Mosby, although he gets annoyed with Zack and Cody, allows them to, like, be kids in his, like, really high-end motel.
Because Mosby could absolutely just go to corporate and be like, I'm done with this. Get rid of the contract now, because the kids are being far more of an annoyance and
a hindrance to, like,
the reputation of the hotel rather than...
Which really shows, like, how understanding he is of the situation around them, because it is hard to be a single mother in Boston, of all places as well. And so, like, it's one of those situations where, like, you come up with a plan, but for the plan to work, everything has to fall in the exact right place. If something doesn't fit right, the whole thing falls apart. And they are in that type of situation, which is true for so many single parent families or split families across the board, because it's hard.
Life is hard.
And I know that definitely fell on me one time, because there was a time, obviously my mom worked at a daycare at this time, and I went to the daycare. I think it wasn't free, but she got a discount for me being there. When you're having a hard day, you want to talk it out. So she ended up telling me about something at work that she should have not told me. And the next day, I talked to one of the other employees within the facility about what my mother had told me, not realizing that, this was a conversation not to be had. And my mom almost got fired the next day about that. And following that night, I got reprimanded so hard about how to never do that again, because I almost cost us our apartment. I almost cost us our monthly income. Like, I was the reason why, we almost didn't have a roof under our head.
Over our head.
Yeah.
You said under. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take away from that scene.
It's totally fine. I do that all the time. But so like the single mother, she's fearful for her kids. That's apparent. But there's also a line that you need to make sure you don't cross with the child, and that's having the child fearful of.
Kids should not have to fear for their own living situation. They shouldn't.
I feared 24/7 for my living situation, which was so annoying.
They shouldn't have to fear their parental units. They shouldn't have to parent their parental units and be their support system. The world is scary enough, and kids are still trying to learn and figure that out. As an adult and as a parent, you have to find other avenues to cope, because your children are not your coping mechanism.
No.
And I am living proof of don't cope to your fucking children. Sorry. But I'm an adult now, and I have to now learn who I am, because I didn't get to explore that as a child for most of my childhood. There's like a few times I was able to explore, and that was normally at my grandmother's, which is why I enjoyed that time so much, because I had opportunities to actually interact.
Sean and I have come upon a hard time in our own lives recently, and learning how to juggle my own big emotions with Sean's own big emotions, with our child's own big emotions, and we have a guest living with us, not for much longer, because of this situation. It's a good thing. They're great.
It's Auntie Casper.
Auntie Casper is going back home because summer is ending. And not to put that on Lynn. Casper. Not to put it on Casper.
But
don't forget to beep in this section.
Something to uplift a little bit, talking about the coping as parents. I feel like that's something says Gen Z is growing really, really good at. I think last week we talked about how Gen Z has been overcoming how a lot of fear tactics were used when we were growing up.
Fear tactics were used so much with us growing up.
But when you look at because Gen Z is entering parental age, living proof here, and if you think about it, what coping mechanisms as parents look like. If you think about the boomer generation, parenting after coming home, stress day of work, that often was very physical. That's how they coped. You piss them off, I'm going to take it out on you type deal. Gen X and millennials, they saw that and obviously didn't like it, but
still took their anger out.
They didn't go through physical means, but it was by emotional and psychological means.
Yeah.
And so seeing that our generation, as we come into adulthood and parenthood and all those things, and seeing what values we're really standing for as a generation and how we promote mental health and coping skills, having a supportive support system around you, it's reassuring that we have been able to evolve as we have, because any parent can agree that's not your child's problem.
Mm-hmm. One of my coping strategies is deep cleaning. So funny story. So we moved into this place a few months ago. There's still boxes we have not unpacked until this week, where I was I'm going to go deep clean the closet because we need more space in there. our bedroom is a mess because of it. And so, yeah. Like the fact that like we have like our own really weird things. Like another thing that I used to do when I got really mad is I would play Hades on the Switch.
Hades is such a fun game.
It's so fun, but like the whole thing is like you are a demigod, like a god in the underworld, and your job is try to get out of hell.
But no matter if you fail or succeed, you still progress.
And you still go back to hell regardless.
Yeah.
Fun fact. But like it was nice to like at this point we could like up the hardness. So if I really was like I just want to like really try hard to beat these enemies, then I could like turn up like the hardness. Or if I'm like I just want to like mindlessly go through it, I could like turn it down. And I found that helpful. And like we have like ways of coping now that like
Didn't exist.
that didn't exist. And like I'm excited for when Casper turns like different ages, where Casper will come up to me and be like, I'm angry, and I'm like, okay, let's figure out what to do. I'm sad. Okay, let's figure out ways that we can use the sadness, or we can sit in it. Let's figure out like the ways so it's not crushing, but you're still feeling it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But with that, we're going to advocate search for what's going to help you.
Yeah, just like how it took London Tipton to search the racks to get her muscles. Search what helps you.
And remember, there are hotlines out there.
Yeah.
We'll put them in the description.
And parenting support groups.
Yes.
And also check out your community, because the community gives a lot, and you'd be surprised.
Truth.
Amen.
But with that, see you next week, friends.
Bye.